the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, says the federal government ignored its 2-week ultimatum. The association had threatened to embark on a strike if the government was unable to meet its demands. Now, some of the demands include massive recruitment of clinical staff in the hospitals, immediate infrastructural development in hospitals, and an allocation of at least 15% of the budgetary provisions to health. Now, immediate payment of the 2023 Medical Residency Training Fund, MRTF, and the immediate increment in the Consolidated Medical Salary Structure, CONMES, to the tune of 200% of the gross salary of doctors. Speaking during a press conference yesterday, Innocent Orji, NAD's president, said government neither reached out nor made any significant move while the ultimatum lasted. And he also did say that as the association's National Executive Council, NEC, considers the development embarrassing for the country. The NAD president called on the federal government to address the issues raised before the inauguration of the next administration. Like he said, further industrial harmony cannot be guaranteed after the warning strike should the issues be left unresolved. And that's where we are. So today is the day that they are to commence on strike, where we have one of their members with us in the studio, a doctor, not a resident doctor. He's more of a
physiotherapist.
Yes. So we have a doctor with us in the studio, Olawale Olatubi. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Moses. Morning.
So, how terrible does it feel being in this profession that seems to have been ignored, being ignored right now? And we also do know that medical tourism seems to be, really high. Is it that political office holders really don't care about doctors in Nigeria? Let's also not forget that very recently there was a proposed bill to keep doctors within the shores of Nigeria for 5 years before getting their license, just so they don't japa.
Doctors are essential workers by paper, but by actions, they are not essential workers. The governments are not even taking them serious. And I think the proposed bill for the 5 years has been cancelled by Chris Ngigi, the
Minister of Labour and
Employment. He said it's not doable because it was saying that you cannot withhold doctors from practicing for 5 years, going out to practice in 5 years. So now what the resident doctors are actually fighting for is for the betterment of Nigerians. Because if the health sector is seriously terrible and we need to work on it, there is shortage of staffs. One of the things they're talking about is employment of more clinical staffs.
Now, give us an idea of the salary structure now, if you're privy to it.
Okay, let me just make this clear. Resident doctors are doctors in training. Now, resident doctors are doctors. After medical school, you go for your housemanship. After your housemanship, you get your permanent license, your full license to practice as a medical doctor. Now, some doctors want to specialize in some fields. So maybe they want to go to be a surgeon, they want to be an ophthalmologist. So when they are training for that, they go into residency training. So it's only like a 6 years training program to become a consultant. So those set of doctors that are in residency training, in the most especially in the teaching hospitals, are what they call the resident doctors. So they have an association of resident doctors. So they have salary scales for each of them. The resident doctor, at least averagely now, a resident doctor should be earning within the range of 250,000 to 400,000 naira, which is the lowest
on the average,
which is one of the lowest in the world for a resident doctor, because Nigeria is actually earning.
So is that why they're asking for 200% increment?
One of the reasons why they're asking for 200% increments is because that they felt that compared to their colleagues outside the country, they are earning lower than what they should be expected. So I think that's why they're fighting for that.
Is it fighting in comparison to colleagues abroad, or fighting based on the fact that a Nigerian, a senator, came up with a bill to prevent them from going abroad, knowing that they go there for greener pastures.
No, that was what actually triggered everything.
That was what triggered it.
This was what triggered everything. Like, okay, why will you not?
You're taking us for
granted,
granted.
you know. And the Minister of Labour came out yesterday and said he's been in talk with the NMA. NMA is the father of all the medical associations. So now he's like saying National Association of Resident Doctors as, okay, you guys are not something. I'm talking to the national body. That's why
your parents.
I'm talking to your parents. So because NMA is the parent for all the medical doctors in Nigeria. So that is where the issue is coming up from. And he's telling them that they should not even bother going on strike because he's been in talk with NMA. He's been in talk with NMA for 20 to 30% of increment of salary.
Okay.
But I think they are getting to an agreement for 20% or 13% increment of salary.
Against the 200%
being asked for. So there are back and forth for these things. But one of the things I know they should actually work on is increment of employment of clinical staffs.
Okay.
Employment of clinical staff and infrastructure of the hospital, of the clinics.
Employing clinical staff, isn't it when people apply?
I can tell you that when there is placement for job, a lot of people apply.
But they choose not to employ.
They choose not to employ. They probably after.
Do you have facts?
Facts. Okay, I can give you an example.
Okay.
I applied to a federal institution some time ago, like some years ago, and we were like 55 that applied. They employed only 2. Out of 55.
Why? Because they couldn't pay the rest?
I think that was the quota they gave them, that they just don't want to employ. They have only 2 slots.
2 out of 55.
So, so the remaining 53 actually, different departments like that. So that's why they are actually saying there are a lot of jobless doctors out there needing to get a job, government job. I want to, but there is no space. So that's one of the things the resident doctors are actually fighting for. And it's not only resident doctors. One thing about the health sector is that it's a very wide space. Apart from resident doctor, there's what we call JOESU. JOESU is Joint Health Workers. So pharmacists are there, nurses are also there, physiotherapists are there. So if the government answers the doctors, the pharmacists will come up again and say, okay, you cannot increase doctors' salary for 200%, and we are still here. We are also important. So everybody wants to fight for supremacy in the health sector. And that's the problem the government is facing now.
So now, what do you make of the statement by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, when he said it's illegal going on strike? So right now, it will be no work, no pay. If you don't come to work, you will not be paid.
No, it's not illegal going on strike.
That's what he said.
It shouldn't be so, because if you are in the normal setting, if you are not satisfied with the situation of what you're going through, after you're giving an ultimatum, giving a letter, you've written a letter to them and they are aware of your activity, then if you are not being answered, it's normal for you to go on strike. So after the strike, then you can come back on the table and dialogue. Now, he said it is normal for you to go on strike and it is normal for us not to pay you. So sometimes that's one to even go to another level of, because after the strike, they will now start fighting for, okay, the money you are owing us last month, pay us.
Or do you think that would deter them from continuing with the strike?
No, it won't. They've done that before. They've done that. It won't deter them from going, because one thing about resident doctors are they're very, very strict with what they want. They are very strict with what they want, and when they go for it by the deck. So they won't deter them. It's not going to deter them. But I feel the NMA should come in to talk to them and try to make them to call off the strike, because this strike is going to affect a lot of things.
Tell us. Things like what exactly?
The resident doctors, actually, in every teaching hospital or federal hospital, they control almost 80% of clinical activities in the hospital.
Okay.
Because we have very few consultants. In the department, we have like 2 consultants. We have like maybe 10 resident doctors. So resident doctors actually the one pulling all the strings in it. So no emergencies. People on dialysis might actually need to cut short. People on so it's going to affect the health sector, and most people want to go for private. Where is the money? No money to go to the private institution. So it's going to affect a lot of people. So I think the government should just come down to the round table for everybody to just discuss, and we should be on the same page.
But even those who go to the private, there are some illnesses that they may refer you back to most of the general hospitals or state-owned hospitals, because they feel they actually have maybe one of the qualified doctors who can handle their cases, or they have the equipment to handle their cases. an unfortunate scenario where the doctors are on strike. What happens to that patient?
That's it. Every time doctors are on strike, we have high number of mortality rate in Nigeria because of the rate at which patients are being left untreated. Even if you go to the private hospital, sometimes they will need to call a consultant. The consultant are not on strike, but the consultant is meant to be working for a government hospital. But most of the time, when they don't have anything to do, then they come to the private settings to work, which is not really normal. And to see them, but sometimes they are incapacitated to what to do because they need some instruments, some facilities where they might not have in the private hospital. So it's going to affect a lot of things. It's going to really affect a lot of things.
All right. Unfortunately, this is what it seems the country has come to experience, whereby the lives of the people are usually at stake when this kind of back and forth comes up between the government and the resident doctors. The question now is, what happens to the common man who relies in public health constitutions to live? What happens to the common man who cannot afford the private, private fees for, private hospitals and private consultation? What then happens in this process that the strike commences?
One thing I say is that when two elephants are fighting, the grass is actually the one who will suffer. Now, the grass, which is actually common man, suffering from these two elephants fighting. It's a pity that, healthcare in Nigeria now is expensive to get proper healthcare, and it shouldn't be so. To get proper healthcare is expensive because if you go to the government hospitals, they will even delay you. No attention. That is what the resident doctors are fighting for, because you have one doctor seeing over 100 patients in a day, and it's even causing a lot of stress on the doctor, which is not meant to be so. At least 3 doctors should be seeing like different patients at the same time, but one doctor is there seeing from morning to night. It's actually very tiring. That's why they're actually calling for this these strikes, like, okay, we want more clinical staffs to even coming on board. And it's not only that. I think the federal government should just work on the health sector generally. They need to, I think we need an overhaul in our
All right then. Thank you very much, Dr. Medical Practitioner, rather, Olawale Olatubi. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Welcome.
All right then. Let's get on with business now, shall we? Going to the world of business, we hear that the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has said that weaker currencies in Nigeria and other sub-Saharan African countries are pushing up public debts. And this was disclosed in a post published on the IMF's website on Monday. Interestingly, it has nothing to do with what we have on the screen there. It's we're talking business now. Oh well. Now, this was disclosed in a post published on the IMF website on Monday. The fund noted that with an average depreciation of 9% since January 2022, sub-Saharan African currencies have weakened against the US dollar. The IMF further noted that with the depreciation mostly driven by external factors, adding that lower risk appetite in global markets and interest rate hikes in the United States pushed investors away from the region towards safer and higher paying US Treasury bonds. While noting the high import cost in 2022, the IMF added that the large budget deficit had compounded the effects of these external shocks by increasing the demand for foreign exchange. On the implications of weaker currencies, the fund identified inflation and higher public debt. Another business story that we have for you this morning, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has said that the recent increase in excise duty for beverage and tobacco goods will force businesses to scale down operations, which will result in factory closures, job losses, and a decline in exports, among other negative trends. MAN President Francis Meshioye stated this during a press conference held in Lagos to raise objections on the recently published 2023 fiscal policy measures on yesterday, noting that the excise duty hike is a flagrant reneging of a promise made to the association by the federal government through the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning on March 23, 2023. Well, he said The exponential increase in excise duty in the 2023 fiscal policy measures came as a shock to the industry and was, in effect, an increase on an increase since there was already an approved increase in place for 2023. And the federal government has advised the incoming administration of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to strengthen anti-corruption and reform-minded agencies to effectively contribute to robust economic and public finance. Now, speaking in Abuja yesterday at the unveiling of the Gender and Environmental Reporting Framework for Nigeria's oil, gas, and mining sectors, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, said anti-corruption agencies were well positioned to guide and shape government policies. This came as she stated that the latest framework put together by the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative would help in resolving the negative impact of oil, gas, and mineral exploration in host communities nationwide. All right, so that's what we have from the world of business.
Oh, Moses, that's quite a lot. So interestingly, on VOP this morning, we give you updates as what's going on in the economic scene, especially if you're an investor. You know where to invest, you know where to buy shares, you get to know the stock that is gaining and the one that's losing. So always make sure that you stay with us so you get yourself briefed up on that. Now, this time around, it's entertainment. And on the segment today, we're going to be talking about the Oni of Ife, who has welcomed a new wife, Olori Akimuda, to the palace. One would say that the Oni is actually on a wifing spree.
I think the Oni is making a statement.
Oh, really?
That I can marry as many as I want.
As I want.
Yeah.
Wow. After Naomi left, I would have seen like the wives have been coming back to back. Okay, so reports circulating online suggest that the palace has sent invitations to relatives and dignitaries for the wedding, Thanksgiving service and reception of the new queen, scheduled to take place on Saturday, May 20, 2023. The traditional entry of the queen into the esteemed Ife Odua Palace in Ile-Ife will precede the event, symbolizing her integration into the royal household. Interesting, right? Now, this wedding Thanksgiving follows a recent marriage of the prominent Yoruba monarch to his sixth wife, Princess Temitope Adesegun, which was held at MRA Community Hall 15, Tokumbo Macaulay Street, Magodo Phase 2, Shangisha, Lagos State. And during the ceremony, the new queen, Elizabeth Opeoluwa, will be officially welcomed by the royal guards, palace chiefs, and royal staff representing the Yoruba monarch. Congratulations to the Oni of Ife. I think the royal status gives you that privilege, and he's literally enjoying that. Okay, so that's basically what we have on that particular aspect of the story. The next one we have on the entertainment segment is TG Omori wants to break Guinness World Records. I would say Hilda Bassi has actually started off. She has set up a precedent.
What does he want to do?
He said that with this bold aspiration, TG Omori demonstrates his determination to push boundaries and make a mark in the entertainment industry. All right, so we know him as a video director, widely recognized as a boy director, and he unveiled his ambitious goal to break a Guinness World Record. So he said this on his Twitter account on Monday, and Omori announced his intention to embark on a remarkable feat inspired by the recent news of Hilda Bassi, a Nigerian chef who set the Guinness World Record for the longest cooking marathon. Omori revealed his plan to break the record for the longest video shoot. He aims to achieve this by filming extensively across Nigeria. So on his Twitter page, he wrote, "Abi, make I break record, use the whole country, shoot one video." And of course, that garnered reactions. This comes again after Hilda did what she did and has set a lot of media and international media, you know, using her as a talisman, especially the EFCC actually tweeted. They wrote something that Nigerian youth should emulate the path of legitimately making wealth, just like Hilda Bassi. And so basically, that is it for TG Omori. What do you think, Moses?
We're talking yesterday about coming up with a record to break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we still in talks?
With?
Because I'm thinking of breaking a record.
Oh, really?
Thinking of breaking a record. So let's. Is there a record for?
Well, yeah, it's
is there a
possible.
record for
Why?
the longest talk show?
Ah, that's true.
Yeah, we could have a talk show that would span
5 days.
5 days.
Ah, my
Straight
God.
up.
Straight up.
Straight
we
up
only
5
rely
days.
on water. They just bring us water and food, and
Is
then
it dry fast?
straight up.
Talk show.
Maybe 10 minutes break.
you can eat in between. It's something to consider.
To
really.
consider, right?
How can you rely only on water? Well, let's consider that.
All right. So interestingly, Nadu is on our scene again today. I know that Moses is always like, no, don't let it be Nadu. But hey, he always sets up the tone with his controversial remarks. Okay. So he says he's berating women who brand themselves independent but rely on men. Okay. So we do know him. He's a popular OAP right here in Nigeria. He's also a comedian. He has a skit maker and a Nollywood actor, a media personality, all in one. Now, according to him, many of these self-acclaimed or proclaimed independent ladies are actually mistresses of married men who financially support their extravagant lifestyles. Nadu expressed his views on the matter during the latest episode of the Honest Bunch audiovisual podcast, a show that he hosts. So this is what he said. Forget all this one that ladies are saying, I'm independent. My auntie, for you to open that shop, you collected money from 5 different men. And you are calling yourself independent. You are not. You should not be in that category. There are hardworking ladies who toil and hustle for contracts. And when people want to disturb them, you have to sleep with me. They walk out of the office. That is the kind of women that we should consider to be hardworking. Those ones that once they want to sleep with them, they walk out of the office. Now, of course, we do know that Nadu's podcast has a history of seemingly making women the subject of its discussion, something he and the podcast have been heavily criticized for. However, despite the controversy trailing him, Nadu continues to enjoy a large following and remains one of Nigeria's most popular comedians and media personality. Moses, why are you mute? Why that face? Why that face?
Well, we understand where the young man is coming from, the experiences that he's had in his marriage. If you recall, he discovered sometime, was it last year or the year before?
The year before.
That the children that he called his were not his. So that's affected his marriage and others. So it's understandable for an individual to take their pain and make it into a money-making venture, which is what he's doing.
I'm telling you.
He's taking his pain and he's channeling it into making money. So he
But you don't believe in the statement he made that some women who say they are independent are literally relying on some married men who was financially sponsoring them?
Well, about the statement, there was a statement, small girl, big God.
Big God.
That trended for a while. Some women claim to be independent, but you see, when they say independent, everybody sources for contracts, everybody sources for one thing or the other. If you independently not getting support from family, but you go out, meet someone, an individual, and you sell an idea to the person, and the person gives you money, and you invest that money and make more money, you can call yourself an independent business person.
But Moses, okay, so let me face you. As you are now, as you are now, Moses, can you remove your money? Your hard-earned money.
That is about
Moses,
all we have for the show today.
Can you remove your hard-earned money and give anybody for any reason? Moses, don't deny my question. Answer me.
Thank you to you for joining on the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe on our YouTube channel. It is Voice of the People
TV.
On YouTube. Voice of the People TV on YouTube and voptvlive Live on Instagram. We'll have this conversation later. In the meantime, my name is Moses Humphrey. Do have yourselves a beautiful day.
And I'm Esther Wachikuba. Please, on the comment section on YouTube, I would like you to actually answer the question. Are you for what Nadu actually said? That's another thing I want to hear from you. And possibly you can actually talk to Moses, because I don't know why he's refusing to answer my question.
I'll answer you.
You are me.
I'll answer you.
All right, that's it for us today. See you tomorrow.